Well, we just learned who public enemy number 1 and 2 are in Love is Blind Season 3. Yes, you guessed it. Cole and Colleen. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review and recap, and today, we're getting right into Love is Blind Season 3 episodes 5 through 7. A huge thank you to Netflix for giving me the chance to watch this early for review, and when you do, let me know in the comments, guys. What do you think of these episodes? Because if y'all thought last week was dramatic, this week is much more dramatic. And speaking of last week, if you missed my review and recap of episodes 1 through 4, you can find that right in the description below. It was a ton of fun talking about it with y'all, and this week I think we have a lot more to talk about. And if you don't already know about the release schedule for Season 3 of Love is Blind, this week was, yes, episodes 5 through 7, and next week are going to be episodes 8 through 10, and then on Wednesday, November 9th, we get episodes 11 and 12, which are the weddings and reunion episodes. But before we get right into this week's episodes, guys, if it's your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about Love is Blind, movies, TV, and all the news in between. So if you do too, hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel. And go ahead and hit the thumbs up button if you want to see more reviews and recaps just like this. Tap on the bell so you don't miss out on my coverage next week and the week after. And get loud again in the comments and let me know which couple is still your favorite or maybe a new favorite. And which couple would you say, they ain't gonna make it? Because I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I got a couple. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and get into my spoiler-free thoughts. That's right, these are my spoiler-free thoughts, and later we'll get into my spoiler thoughts. You can find the time codes below. Okay guys, so just to begin right at the top with this note, this week is probably the most dramatic week yet. There's so much tension. There's a lot of different situations that are kind of brewing and at points literally overflowing. I mean, the water's boiled. It's literally to its peak. It seems like there's a lot of tempers that are kind of flaring, and then you got a lot of egos coming into play. But you knew that was going to happen this week, right? Because we only had one more day in Malibu, which was shown in episode 5, and then they left Malibu to then live together. And there's that dynamic. You want to see how the couples can live together, and then they're meeting family and friends. And then to top it all off, at the end of episode 7, they had a little like mini reunion dinner, and a lot of alcohol was flowing, so you know some truths were coming out. But honestly, you guys, I'm having so much fun with this season. It is entertaining if you are a fan of these trashy reality TV shows, and this season is already better than season 2. And I mean that on every note, especially the production. However, there's one thing that kind of carried over from season 2 that I don't like in season 3, which is this soundtrack. The music is sometimes overbearing to a fault. I mean, even in episode 7, like, we get it, what's happening on screen is dramatic. We don't need the music to tell us that. I want to hear what Matt and Cole are talking about, okay? And yeah, we'll dive into that in a little bit. So there are some positive areas here, but then there are some negatives that carried over from last season that have found their way into even this week's episodes, but for the most part, I'm having much more fun. And what's crazy is that amidst all this drama and tension, I'm leaning towards a new favorite couple, and that would be SK and Raven. Well, for the most part. And I say for the most part because there are some things between them that I'm thinking this might not actually be as smooth of a transition from being engaged to them being married in their life after marriage. I mean, well, SK's already revealed that he wants to go to Berkeley, or he's been accepted to Berkeley for grad school, so it's not going to be great. It's going to be in person, so I mean, imagine a couple months after you get married and then your spouse is like, goodbye, I'm going to Cali and you're staying here. That doesn't really work. I mean, it could, but I don't know, it's tough, right? It's tough to work through that. I can only imagine that Raven's not too flattered or too infatuated with the fact that her husband-to-be would most likely be going away for about 2 years. It's a long time. Now, if I had to pick a favorite episode, it might be episode 7, but before that, it was definitely episode 5. There's just a lot of this back and forth. I would say episode 6 was probably the slowest episode. Sometimes they linger a little too long on certain couples, and sometimes they don't linger enough. So I do think there's a little bit of a tug-of-war match in between how they're editing this week's episodes. So I think some fans will be happy, some fans won't, but you guys can let me know where you fall, which side of the fence you fall on in the comments. But, you know, listen, y'all didn't come here for my spoiler-free thoughts, right? You probably came here for my spoiler recap. So I'll give you all that commentary right about now. So again, leave a like on this video, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't, and come back and watch this part of the review if you haven't finished this week's episodes, so we can get into all of my spoiler-filled thoughts beginning right about now. Okay guys, so let's begin with a little recap of our engaged couples. We have SK and Raven, Cole and Zeneb, Matt and Colleen, Alexa and Brennan, and we have Nancy and Bartiste. Or we might not have them. Ooh, I know, the shade's starting early, sorry. It's just, the tea is so hot this week. Alrighty, so let's begin with, well, the pool party, which, well, not as stress-free for some of these couples, but we'll begin with the conversation I'm sure you want to talk about, which is Cole and Colleen's conversation. Now listen, Cole expressed interest in Colleen in the pods, and when he saw her in real life, he's like, listen, we might have not had an emotional connection, but I'm looking at you and I'm like, oh wow, I'm physically attracted into you. And to be honest, I don't know, man. I think Cole's getting kind of ahead of himself here, and I don't agree with him. Now, I also don't agree with Colleen, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. In the pool, they both had a conversation that conveniently, of course, was captured and centered upon in this moment. Colleen said she always knew it was Matt. However, Cole asked Colleen if she had any reservations. That's a snakish behavior. Seriously, who does that, man? But anyway, Colleen said apparently that Cole is also her type after Cole had told Colleen that, yeah, you're definitely my type. You're the kind of girl I would go after in the real world. And I'm like, y'all can't, this is weird, right? This is kind of weird. And then Colleen put her foot in her mouth and told Matt that she told Cole he's a cute guy and in the real world, she would date him. Dog, what are you saying? Like, Colleen, girl, honey, you're telling your fiance this? Like, I appreciate the honesty, but, you know, you, like Matt said, you had every opportunity to shut this convo down, yet you continued to string Cole along, and Cole, I guess he wanted to be strung along, I don't know, but yeah, you know, Cole telling Colleen that, you know, she is his type, she's cute, it didn't vibe, and then Colleen kind of reciprocating that was also weird. You know, Cole did say that he would date Colleen, right? In this episode, in episode 5 at least, and that he's physically in love with her. So that was another comment that I feel like Cole, he's what he's doing is essentially, I mean, you're just disrespecting Zeneb, right? Like, you're disrespecting your fiance. And yeah, Cole saying that to Colleen about physically being in love with her was like really weird. And then of course there's the aftermath of this Cole and Colleen conversation. We spoke about it a little bit with that Matt and Colleen conversation. However, that was their first real argument in Malibu, and it ain't the only argument they had this week. Yeah, there's just, you know, a lot of tension, of course, but Matt, he's got a little temper to him, which does resurface in episode 7. However, I understand why he's mad, and I do get it. You know, Matt is talking about, in this instance, being done with Colleen after hearing her out, and then saying, you know, this is just not right, you're disrespecting me, I want to be all in, I don't want to be played. Definitely he's a little drunk, I think, you know, but, you know, he was definitely feeling himself, and he was telling the truth, at least his way. And then, you know, he got mad, he left, and he even, what did he say? I think he said he was done. So that is, listen, you say that is tough to hear if you're Colleen. But then you have Cole and Zeneb. So how did they react to all this? And Zeneb, girl, I'm with you, all right? I really do think I'm team Zeneb in this situation over team Cole, because Zeneb ain't do nothing wrong. She did nothing wrong, and yet Cole is making Zeneb feel really insecure knowing that she has self-esteem issues. Back in their Malibu room, Zeneb asked Cole to rate her, which is also kind of a weird question, but she opened the door and Cole walked right through. However, he let the door hit him on the behind because he said he would rate her a 9 out of 10 and that Colleen is a 10 out of 10. Talk about literally self-sabotaging your own relationship. Dog, what is you doing? Why are you doing that? Knowing that there's history between you and Colleen, like, dog, no. So it ultimately, Cole's digging a hole, right? It ultimately worked out terrible for Cole. But I do think that Zeneb, in a way, like, she, to me, is the clear-cut winner in this situation, in this argument. I mean, I know there's no, like, winners, probably some losers, but yeah, no, she won here because I cannot believe he is treating her like this. But let's move on. Outside of just Cole and Colleen's conversation, there was another conversation between a couple that, well, could have been, and that was between Raven and Bartiste. It was really weird to hear Bartiste say this week that he cares what Raven thinks of him. Like, why? Y'all aren't together? Like, okay, fine. But then Bartiste said to Nancy that his talk with Raven went well, and he's a total liar because Raven shut him down. I'm actually really proud of Raven, you know? It definitely felt like she wasn't vibing with Bartise in the conversation at the pool, but she also said that she's not flattered at all, and Raven just shut that door completely and threw the key away. But then during the rest of the conversation between Nancy and Bartise in their room, Bartise asked Nancy, would you say yes right now to getting married? And Nancy said her answer would be yes. And then Bartise looked unsure, and he started, asking some questions, and I guess his answer was no without even saying it. But I think at this point, to me, this is where he was already done. I think this is where he checked out. He's already making comments like he's not physically attracted to Nancy, that Nancy's not his type, and starting Nancy's feelings, like little things like that. It can only be tolerated for so long. So I feel bad for Nancy too. But it can't be all doom and gloom on our last day in Malibu, right? Because there is a couple that I felt got stronger, and that is Raven and SK. Although I gotta ask, homie, SK, what kind of massage was that, dog? I mean, there was something about this like heart chakra or whatever the heck it was. I was like, dude, what is this? Ain't no massage, dog. Get deep tissue, get in the muscles, like, what is going on here? But you can tell that they both were vibing, and at this point I believe Raven also said they hadn't gotten intimate, but on purpose, because Raven tells SK that she's like saving herself for marriage, which is fine. And then Raven also lets SK know that, okay, as a result of all this, like our last day in Malibu, I'm falling in love with you. I'm like, wow, okay. And before we move on to leaving Malibu and how everyone lived together, there is one couple that kind of didn't do anything on their last day in Malibu, and that's Alexa and Brennan. I mean, they did things according to Alexa, you know what I mean? But Brennan said he's nervous about living together. And then the editors kind of like cut everything else out and transitioned to all these other couples and situations. So yeah, seems like Alexa and Brennan got the short end of the stick here. However, they do get some focus during the families. So let's go ahead and move on to the living together portion of it all when they left Malibu. And we're going to begin with SK and Raven. This is where Raven ultimately says she wants to save herself for marriage. And SK agrees. I kind of like the way that SK is really supportive of Raven, knowing that, she is different than he is, of course, but he wants to love her the Raven way, according to him. And I thought that was really nice. And up to this point, that's all the notes I have so far for SK and Raven, but I do want to transition to Cole and Zeneb, because Zeneb is on Cole again, on his back, to pick up his things in their apartment. And I'm like, dog, I get it, Zeneb, I get it. Like, me personally, I make my bed every morning. Like, I make sure, well, there's some dust on my TV, but, things are dusted, clean. I get that Lysol out. I'm getting on my hands and knees, you know what I mean? But I understand. However, Cole is beginning to get even more frustrated all over again. I guess he kind of never had that direction in his life, especially when we see his apartment, which we'll talk about later. But Cole's family apparently doesn't agree with this process. That's a new tidbit of info that we learned when they first had that night together in the apartment. So yeah, I can see that weighing on them, and we do definitely see that weighing on them in episodes 6 and 7. And then there's Colleen and Matt, who didn't have too much screen time when they left Malibu and they were living together, so they basically just said they talked through what happened and they're back on track, at least for now. Yeah, I say for now because y'all watched episode 7. We're gonna talk about that. Now let's talk about Alexa and Brennan again, because hey, they didn't get much screen time in their last day in Malibu, but in episode 6 they definitely did. So they first stayed at Alexa's home, or yeah, I mean, it's like her home. I believe it's, not like a 2-story thing, but they stayed there and they were talking about finances, and Brennan did bring up that he has student loans. So like adult conversations, which I get. And then Alexa said she had online shopping bills, and I'm like, all right, girl, well, that is hopefully a habit that can be fixed before y'all get married in a way, because, she didn't make it sound like she had $2,000 of online shopping bills. She made it sound like she had close to 12, 15, maybe even 20,000. Like, it sounded bad when she said it. So I can understand Brennan being a little timid in that moment, but he was, feeling like, all right, we'll work through it together, which I really appreciate. So the last note I have here, Alexa said she wants a prenup, and I'm like, oh, just like Brennan, I was like, really? That was a curveball. I did not expect that. But Brennan says, yeah, put whatever you want in the contract and I'll sign it. And I'm like, dang, Brennan, you really love her, dog. Good for you. Feels like he's the most, genuine person on the show, right? And then there's Nancy and Bartise. The show really loves focusing on them, I'll tell you that much. And we begin their time together after Malibu with Bartise, Nancy FaceTiming Nancy's mother, which was interesting. And then Bartise reveals that he's a little bit nervous about moving forward. These are the seeds that we start to see planted where Bartise is beginning to have reservations about their relationship. And then Bartise, in his wording, I noticed, I made this note, he said he initially was like, it's gonna work out. He was so hype in the pods and in Malibu, and it slowly transitioned to when they lived together outside of Malibu, him saying, if it does work. I'm like, huh, if? You went from when it does to if. Wording means a lot, words mean a lot, so, you know, interesting. But Bartise also showcased that he's a little too clingy here. He said, why are you so far away, to Nancy while they were both laying in bed. I think she was laying down the opposite way and he was laying down with his back to the bedboard. And I'm like, dog, come on. Like, so many different red flags with Bartise. Like, listen, I get it. I get wanting to be like close a lot of the time. I've had to overcome my own clinginess, but yes, you know, like you gotta chill. Let her have her space. You know what I mean, homie? So, all right, yeah. And then Nancy revealed that she still owns properties with her ex. So there's that. Alrighty, guys. So now it's time to talk about meeting the friends and family because there's a lot to talk about here. I'm actually serious. I have a lot of notes. So let's begin with SK and Raven. Raven met SK's mother and brother and they had traditional Nigerian food and they were able to sit down and have some pretty good conversation, I would say. I thought it was really nice to see SK's mother genuinely happy for her son and also saying that she feels like Raven is a part of the family. I'm like, oh, that is so sweet. I do love those bonds, right? It's very cool to see that. However, Raven did reveal that her parents, they don't agree with this process and they will not come to the wedding. Now, that is tough to hear, especially if you are SK's family, because SK's family, being Nigerian, if both sides of the family are not present, then it almost kind of puts a burden, it casts the dark cloud over the wedding that day. It makes it feel like maybe there's not a wholeness to everything. So, you know, SK's mom is excited for them. She's very sweet, but she's also worried, and I get it. So, yeah, then they go back to SK's apartment where they both spend the night together, and SK reveals, of course, that he has that full ride scholarship, which is awesome, but he has to reduce expenses, and Raven says she doesn't want her quality of life and her lifestyle to sort of go down, like downgrade. And then Raven said that she wants SK to help pay her rent in Dallas when they get married, even though he'll be living on the West Coast, which made me scratch my head because I'm like, if he's not living there, okay, moving on. So because Raven's parents and her family are not on board with this process, SK ended up meeting Raven's friends, 2 of them, and whew, boy, they were tough. One of Raven's friends even said that SK wasn't the ideal man she thought Raven would marry, and Raven did mention that she is a little bit nervous about this cultural divide, which her friends also brought up. So Raven was expressing some worries and thoughts and concerns that I hadn't previously heard her say on the show, and you know, Raven's friend brought up again, hey, if this long distance thing is happening, it's going to be tough. And they reveal in an off camera, well, I should say off site, they were just speaking with the producers in that interview. Raven's friends said that they don't think, they're not sold, they don't think it's going to work out. And even one of Raven's friends said, hey, Raven's going to probably break his heart. So I don't know, y'all. It's concerning a bit, right? Alrighty, y'all, so let's transition now to Cole and Zeneb. And I actually really appreciated that Cole and Zay's mom had a pretty down-to-earth conversation. It was really cool to also see Zay's mother pray with Cole over their soon-to-be marriage and their current relationship. It was really beautiful because I know how special those moments are too. You know, I'm very blessed to be in a position where my significant other's parents pray for me, and I think that's really cool. You know, it's nice to have people who pray for you and are in your corner like that. And then afterward, they went to Cole's apartment, so what was once a sweet moment turned into a what the heck moment. Now, do I think that the producers played up how unclean Cole is in his apartment? Absolutely. It felt a little overdone, but boy, was it a mess. And there were also flies in the toilet. What? So after all that, they sit down to have a semi-decent conversation in a room that is still very dirty, the, you know, kitchen area, and reality setting in now that Cole, or at least for Cole, that his family is not on board. So Cole has some past trauma almost, I believe, with his family. At least that's how I read the situation. And Zeneb also feels frustrated, but not because of Cole, but she feels frustrated for him. You know what I mean? And for them. It's just so sad that Cole's family isn't really giving him the support here. I can understand being upset, but at the end of the day, it's still your kid. So yeah, it seems like he has a lot of pent-up frustration. And then there's Colleen and Matt's segment, and guys, this was a very short segment. It's weird. Everything with Colleen and Matt feels very short, tight. Boof, they just like speed right through it. But they went to Matt's mom's house, and Matt's mom, Becky, was really infatuated with Colleen, like literally to the point where I'm thinking, dog, oof, you don't even know her and you are just like head over heels for her. Could it happen? Yes. But in this instance, I'm like, something just felt really off, honestly. But then Becky did sit down with Colleen and asked if she's ready to get married and if this is all for the cameras or is it genuine. Colleen said it's not, but again, I do feel like the editing around their situation it's very weird. It's almost like so quick. It leads me to believe that something is just not settled between these two, and also it just kind of felt uninteresting. Their segment really just nothing was clicking. I'm ready to move on, you know what I mean? And that's what we're about to do right now with Alexa and Brennan and their family meeting. First up is Brennan meeting Alexa's family, and Brennan looked a little nervous, and he said he was a little nervous. Now Alexa's family seems intimidating in a way too, but Alexa's dad made it worse by saying, well, my girl's not gonna marry no chump. And the episode ends that way, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm thinking, jeez. But Brennan went ahead and expressed how much he really loves Alexa, and the conversation with Alexa's dad actually ended up better than I thought it would. Alexa's father really just wanted to make sure that Alexa was being put in a good situation. Of course, they live in a more affluent lifestyle than Brennan seems to want to live, but they're probably going to make some compromise there. But at the end of it all, Alexa's father says, you know what, I give you both my blessing. And I'm like, okay. And no, we didn't see them make shakshuka. Sorry about that. So let's get into Nancy and Bartise now, which is, ooh, yeah, oh wow, okay. We'll begin with Bartise meeting, Nancy's mom, dad, brothers. Nancy's brothers were not having this, yo. Nancy's brothers were like sizing him up. One of the brothers was a little bit nicer than the other. The other brother was just like, I don't see it. Ooh, okay, because we are not Team Bartise over here, okay? And I'll tell you why. Let's keep going. One of the brothers actually told Bartise that his reasons for choosing Nancy are bland, which made me literally cackle. And then there was a question of, if Nancy was a 400-pound girl, would you still marry her and be in love with her? And Bartise kind of gave a non-answer, but he basically said no to a degree. And then there's Nancy's mom, who was really tough. She was like, you're not getting by me. And yeah, it was Bartise didn't have a good time. And there was a conversation with Nancy and Bartise back at the apartment after the family meeting too. And the conversation really went a direction I didn't expect it to go. They both had a talk about kids and abortion. Now, abortion is a sensitive topic. I get it. Now, for me, the woman, they can make their choice. Listen, there's just a lot that goes into that decision, right? And Nancy made a comment to Bartise that if their child were to be born with Down syndrome or any other, I guess any other handicap to a degree, that it would be her decision to abort the pregnancy, which did not rub Bartise the right way, and it didn't rub Bartise's family the right way either, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So this was a very heavy moment in the show. This probably was one of the moments where I feel like the most weight was felt with this conversation. So yeah, it was a lot, and let me tell you, it was just, I had to take a breather, I had to pause it and take a walk. So Bartise's family eventually meets Nancy, and Bartise's mom seems to be on board with the whole Love is Blind process. Father was very quiet, but Bartise's sister, to Nancy's face, said that she's beautiful, which was great. And then afterwards, apparently told Bartise that she is skeptical about their relationship. And I think this probably came after the abortion topic. You can tell Bartise's family is very much against abortion, right? It seems to be affecting them pretty hard. So, it's again, not easy conversations to have. But Bartise said that his physical connection after everything was just off with Nancy. And, he mentioned that there was like something wrong with them. So it almost feels like Bartise is looking for a way out, and we really get that sense during the dinner and drinks segment, y'all. So This is one where you can tell there was a lot of alcohol going, so people were drunk, but there was a lot of drama at the same time. So let's break it down, all right? We'll do a little play-by-play here. Zanab told Colleen in front of her that Cole is attracted to her, which was... Whew. First of all, that probably was one icebreaker that could have reserved that one, but Zanab was frustrated, so she was trying to be like, yo, like, you know, back off, my man, but also, Cole, what is you doing? So, like, she's stuck between a rock and a hard place. However, Colleen was like, all right, let me take this time to spill about what happened between her and him in the pool, and I'm like, oh boy. So Zanab didn't get the full picture, did she? And neither did Matt, in a way. So yeah, Zanab learned a lot more about Cole and Colleen's conversation in the pool, and Zanab wasn't happy. Zanab had a conversation with Matt, and Zanab just got mad all over again. So there was a lot of that. But then there's Bartiz asking how Andrew's proposal to Nancy went, because yeah, some of the pod members that didn't make it showed up at this dinner, and the producers did this on purpose, clearly, because Nancy and Andrew had some sort of connection, and Bartiz is now all of a sudden very defensive and immature because Andrew and Nancy had a conversation together on their own, and Bartiz came over kind of huffing and puffing his chest a bit, and I'm like, dog, this is not, we know how you're acting with Nancy at home on your computer, not paying attention, and now you want to be all defensive? However, Nancy stuck true to the decision she made in the pods to say yes to Bartiz and says she doesn't regret her decisions. However, after Bartiz came over and tried to really, again, assert his dominance in a way, well, Nancy was not very happy. I low-key believe that Andrew and Nancy would have been better after all this. Not gonna lie to y'all. But yes, it was a lot. And of course, they go back to the whole Matt and Colleen situation, and Matt basically said that he's not over their Malibu disagreement. And trust me, there's a lot more where that came from. And then you have Zanab and Cole. They kind of bounce back and forth between those two couples quite a bit in this segment, but Cole is digging himself into a hole here, in my opinion, with their one-on-one conversation, because Zanab is hearing that Cole loves her and finds her attractive, but Cole keeps saying, you're not my type, but I love you, but you're not my type. It's like, what are you, dog? Stop doing this to her. Like, no. She has low self-esteem issues, and you keep talking about her looks. It's like, dog, come on. So I don't blame Zanab for not buying Cole's words here. And then Cole sarcastically said, go marry Matt then, because Zanab said she's team Matt in terms of like where she falls on the disagreement, because Zanab and Matt don't agree with how Cole and Colleen handled their conversation. And it's just a lot of tea. And then of course the producers probably wanted Cole and Matt to have a conversation, so they have a one-on-one. Overly dramatic music ensues. It's too much. And then Matt eventually got over everything after talking with Cole, until a cliffhanger ending happened. That's right, Nancy and Bartiz are having a conversation in their apartment, and all of a sudden Bartiz gets a phone call from Matt, and I guess Matt's staying in an apartment down the hall, and Matt is asking, where in the world is Colleen? So both of them get worried. I know I did. I'm thinking, is she okay? And then he said that Colleen ended up telling him that, hey, I'll meet you back at the apartment, never showed up, and she went to a club, and it's like 2:30 in the morning apparently on Wednesday, I think it was a Wednesday morning. And you know, Matt's saying, I'm done, I'm packing my bag. So Bartiz goes over and tries to save the day and put his Superman cape on, which he's one to talk, but the thing is, he's trying to get Matt to stay, and Matt is not having it, and he's upset, and he's ready to leave, and he even says, I don't want to spend the rest of my life with her. And it's like, oh, okay. So episode ends there. There you have it. Listen, y'all, I need a towel. Anyone got a towel? So there you have it, you guys. That's my real review and recap of episodes 5 through 7 of Love is Blind Season 3. If you guys enjoyed that, again, hit the big red button below, and I'm gonna need your comments down below too, because I want to hear what you have to say. What do you guys think of these heavier conversations, the lighter moments this season, and the drama between Cole, Colleen, Matt, and Zanab? It is a lot. Even Nancy and Bartiz. Now that I think about it, I can see some drama between SK and Raven at some point too. Oh boy, interesting week of television, but a fun one. Alrighty, y'all. I'll see you next week for my Love is Blind Season 3 recap, and we got a lot more news and reactions and stuff to talk about on the channel this week too, so stick around. It's going to be a fun one. Alrighty, y'all. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.